bringing you the latest news, game updates, insights, highlights, and everything Liberty Hockey. This is Rock the Rink, where Liberty Hockey lives.
Welcome into a new episode of Rock the Rink. Pat Strawn filling in for the voice himself, Rob McGibbon, and also joined by Chris Kerr and former assistant coach Justin Forth. And guys, obviously what we've been doing in the offseason, talking about recruits. Flames nag another one. This time finally a goaltender in Conrad Kusch, native of Minnesota Duluth and a D3 transfer from St. Mary's University. So obviously got to be happy that the Flames finally got now a goaltender to complement Bernstein.
Oh, yeah, it fires me up of when you want to have a successful team, you need to have good goaltending. And everyone always thinks games. Well, I also think practices, right?
Yeah.
When you could constantly be competing against top goaltenders in practice, that's going to only help your team. It's only going to help strengthen your team. So really excited about that. And then got to spend a really good amount of time with Conrad here on his recruit visit. First off, just an awesome dude, but then really focused, really into it. So asked a lot of great questions that, as the weight room guy, as the weight room coach, really fired me up. And then talking with our sport coaches, the hockey guys, they also were in agreement. So someone we were really excited to bring in, and now even more excited to have signed here. So you have Conrad, you have Bernstein. It's going to be looking positive, trending towards the fall here.
Yeah, I really like Nick Bernstein and what he was able to do this last season. Coming in, fighting for that second spot behind Hunter. But I think he's put himself in a really good situation to challenge in K2, who's coming in challenging Nick Bernstein. I think it's really exciting that they're going to have that battle at the top spot.
Is that going to be the nickname?
Yeah, I just made it up.
There you
I
go.
love it.
Right? Yeah.
We'll have to let Rhett know. Make the call there.
There we go.
K2. All right. I don't know if Conrad's ever heard that. I'll have to ask him today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good.
Speaking of Conrad, like talking a little bit about him, like obviously this is a guy who comes in with some pretty good goaltending pedigree. Last 2 seasons played for the Minnesota Wilderness and the Null. 90% save percentage with 2.85 goals against average. Prior to that, in the USPHL Premier, played 2 seasons there with a record of 21-8-2, under 2 goals against per average, and then a 92% save percentage. And then how he found out about Liberty was during the playoff run where he met incoming recruits Michael DeBrito and Hayden DeMars when he played for the Alexandria Blizzard. So like that's got to be something too that I know Kerr, from a weight room guy, you got to be happy that so many guys have a connection with a guy that's coming in, a guy that just came in, a past player. Like that's got to fire you up too to see the connection, and then also like they want to buy into the culture, already bought into the culture that Liberty has.
No, Pat, that's such a great point. And if I remember, I'll try to ask Bret that when we get to interview him and sit down with him. But what we've really had these past couple of years is like the players recruiting themselves. I'll use Jacob Callendike as the example of constantly just, hey, I played with this guy. Hey, I played with this guy. Trying to bring guys in. When the men had their recruitment camp, guys sitting on the couches together that already had previous relationships. It's just massive, right? Yeah. And then, too, we always talk about the culture and the fit of Liberty. So when you have a guy that we already brought in, kind of screened that we like, and they're recommending or they have relationships with other people, it's massive, right? It's when you bring in the large recruiting class like we're about to, if you could have some previous experiences with each other, you can kind of really hit the ground running versus like, okay, I got to kind of get to know this guy, understand how he plays, what he likes to have said to him before, after practice, games, things like that. So culturally, it's really going to work in well. From my perspective, yeah, we'll just be able to really, really hit the ground running despite this large recruitment class.
Yeah, in fourth year, no stranger to having large recruitment classes. Obviously, we've touched on Liberty's class. Now they have brought in their 9th recruit, 7 forwards, 1 defenseman, and a goaltender. Tell us like your thoughts on the guys coming in for Liberty and how it's probably going to be a good thing because it's not rebuilding, but they're retooling their culture.
Yeah, I mean, as a coach and you bring in 9 new players, it's so exciting, right? Because you can kind of mold and figure out and learn, and it's not just one person or 2 people that you're working with. Like, you can redefine and you can change things too, because like we can go back to the drawing board, like, hey, what worked, what didn't. And also it's exciting too, because the first 2-3 months you're especially learning what type of player these are. They come in with an idea of what you think they're going to be, but until they interact and you see them, what their strengths and weaknesses are, I think it's really very exciting time for Liberty's hockey.
Yeah, exciting times indeed. Well, speaking of exciting times, we're going to talk to the guy that has played a key part in bringing a lot of these recruits in. Joining us now is head recruiter for the men's D1 hockey team, Bret Berthiaume. Bret, thanks for sitting down and joining with us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
So, Bret, for those that don't know, tell us, our viewers and listeners, a little bit about yourself. I know you've been a part of the hockey program for a while here, but give us a little background about yourself.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I've been here. I'm going on my 9th year. Came here as a
Crazy.
It is wild. I came here as a freshman in 2016, 2017. Was fortunate enough to be able to do my undergrad here in sport management. Started here as an equipment manager, actually, and kind of just rose throughout the ranks. Just being blessed by my ability to kind of gain trust from the coaching staff, and it's been great. Did my undergrad in sport management, and then did my master's for 2 years in business administration, and kind of that's when I started doing more of the operations side of it, and it's been good.
Now, we've been doing the pod for a while, Pat, in 4th year. Is this our first, behind the scenes support staff guy?
Well, I guess second,
come on?
Technically, because you're the first.
Oh, all right. I did not mean to ask that question and put myself up. Yeah, that's my bad. I guess, I guess you're right on that. But, Bret, just kind of take people through the journey, right? So you started out in the position you were in. And I know you kind of just gave the background, so you started on the position you're in, and each year kind of progressing towards this. Was this always in the back of your mind of something you wanted to do, or slowly but surely, just being part of Liberty Hockey, you wanted to stick around and realize, okay, I'm probably not going to be their full-time equipment manager, but I can move into this type of role?
Yeah, no, it's been kind of a wild journey for me. I grew up in Smith Mountain Lake, Virginia. Not really the hockey hub of the world, but having a father who played in the NHL and has an extensive background in hockey, I grew up around the game through him, and that's been something that's been special to me. So coming here, I had no intentions of doing what I'm doing today. However, I knew that I wanted to be involved in hockey to some capacity. And so at the time when I got here, I was just super pumped to be an equipment manager, be around the team, and be around the coaching staff, and kind of just be a fly on the wall and learn through that experience kind of what the behind the scenes from a coaching or business side of it is really like. So the journey has been awesome. It's been unique, I think, being a guy who actually hasn't played hockey in a very long time. I've just kind of grown up watching the game, picking my dad's brain, picking my dad's friends' brains, just to learn more and kind of try to have the mentality of being a sponge as much as possible. And so through talking to Kirk and through talking to Jeff, just being able to grow as somebody who's knowledgeable in the game, and it's been awesome.
What are some of the things from, we're going to call it previous roles, that you might miss? Or what are some things that you're like, I am so glad I don't do that anymore?
I mean, obviously being an equipment manager isn't the most glamorous life. You're kind of, I don't want to say you're in the gutters the whole time, but you're looking after gear, you're looking after kind of little nitpicky things. So I think through that role, going into hockey operations, one of the biggest things I learned was just patience and how important it is to build and gain trust of those that you're working with. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the relationship to sustain what you're doing, you're probably not going to have much success. So I figured if you could do that at the lowest level when you're at the bottom of the totem pole, you can do it at the highest level. And so that's kind of my mentality through it all, is just grind, do the best you can, and build relationships with those who you're working with, who you believe can help set you up for success in the future.
That was a great answer. And so I have two more, and then I'll pass it on to the other boys here and share the mic a little bit. But you've said to me in a statement, this was years ago, you're about to finish your GA ship, and we were having a prospects camp, I believe. And you said, if this is going to be my last one, I want it to be the absolute best it could be.
Yeah.
And so we've seen you have that kind of level of, let's just word it as, I just want to do the absolute best I can. Was this something you've always had, or did it take you to get into this kind of like, sport that you're passionate about, this role that you're a little bit more passionate about, to really have all that come to fruition?
I think when it comes to how passionate I am and my work ethic, I actually would like to kind of give that back to when I came in as a freshman. I honestly had no work ethic whatsoever, but Ben Novak, who was the head equipment manager at the time, he kind of was hard on me, and I needed it. And I think through working with him actually meant a lot to me, and learning how to work hard. And then just kind of watching our coaches and how much they care about the program made me feel like I wanted to buy in even more. Obviously, I love what the university stands for and what we stand for as a hockey program, having the opportunity to be so unique, so different. That's kind of what's made me so passionate about what I do. That, and then having the blessing of working with my dad, that's that's a huge part of it too. Yeah. It's not something that everybody gets to do in their life for as long as I have. So, I contribute what I do on a day-to-day basis to, our coaching staff, my dad, and then Novak, who helped me. And then I worked at Mitchell's Marina, which is a marina at Smith
Mountain Lake. You worked there too?
Everybody.
I worked for Debbie and Jeff for sure.
But Debbie and Jeff,
they
run a great ship out there with their business, and they're dealing with customer service, and it's a little bit of manual labor. So working there in between my freshman year and my sophomore year, I learned a lot about how to kind of handle myself, and then brought some of that to what I do now. But hockey's always been a passion. That's the easy part for me. It's kind of figuring out how to navigate it. So prospect camps.
I will say I've noticed you. Obviously, we've kind of all been around for the decade that you've been here in different kind of roles. But I will say that I've never seen someone as excited as you to get a recruit. Like the random times that I talk to you near the printer, in your desk, near the trenches. Probably the worst desk location, unless you're printing. I think you get super excited when like, hey, any recruits, in a casual conversation, and I think I see your eyes light up when you guys land a big fish, or even mid fish. So I think that's something that you can't really learn. I think that's something innate in you that's really cool to see here.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think we have something special, and anytime a guy says, "Yeah, I'm fully on board," like, it fires me up. I love it, because I think that we give ourselves a chance to really have a lot of success on and off the ice with those guys that say, I want to be at Liberty for what Liberty is, and for what the program is and where it's going. So that gets me really fired up.
Yeah, piggybacking off what Forrest said, let's talk about the class, right? Like, obviously, this is one of the biggest classes we've seen in quite some time, probably one of your biggest classes that you've helped bring in too. But literally, I think we have talked on the pod multiple times, a lot of depth. And really, expectations we're expecting from this group, not really to it's not a rebuilding year for Liberty, more like a retooling year. So, talk a little about the class itself from your perspective.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome to kind of recruit this class specifically. I helped a lot with last year. It's really, last year's class was the first class that I had a huge hand in. This class coming in this year is really exciting because it reminds me a lot of my freshman year when I came in as a student with Quinn and Garrett Nelson and all those guys.
Those guys were all freshmen?
They were all freshmen the year that I came in. So.
What a good class to start your career.
So
that's a comparison, though, that people have been saying, too, with this one.
Just because
easy.
It's a large group. There's a lot of guys that are fully bought into what we want to do and are working hard this offseason already to come in and be ready to go. So depth-wise, I'm really excited about the group that we have overall.
Yeah, obviously, Kerr always says, like, Bret's out there grinding, right? Like, always time. So, like, talk a little about, like, I guess, like, the process or the pitch when you're wheeling and dealing on the road. Because, like, obviously, you're a younger man, so, like, you got to go up to parents who are in their mid-40s to say, your kid should come to school here. Yeah. Talk a little about that whole process.
Well, I would say...
then don't give away too many of the secrets.
That's right. Not the secret sauce.
If there's any closing statements, hold off on those.
Berthiaume son of the bandit. Like, you lead with that, or does that just like come up later?
Yeah.
That usually comes up later. We've actually had guys in our program. I can think of a story. I was just sitting on the couch, I think my freshman year. It was like halfway through the year, and Josh Hamilton, who's on the team and was our captain, and the year after, but he didn't realize that me and my dad were related. He had no idea. a couple weeks.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
And he's like, "Wait, you guys are father son." And then there was somebody this year, I think Bernstein too. It was when we were in Minot, like one of the first trips of the year. Me and my dad were watching Blake, my brother, play hockey, and we're like going back and forth at it because obviously he's not perfect, and so we're kind of judging his hockey game, and Nick's just sitting there doing homework, I think eating food, and then we started talking. He's like, "Wait, are you guys related?" And so it's just funny. So,
Why did you call the coach an idiot?
Yeah, but back to your original question. My pitch isn't really a pitch. I don't want to come at this thing with what I do from a salesman perspective. I just want to provide as much information to these guys as possible because I believe in what we have, facility-wise, coaching staff-wise, university-wise, and I believe that if I can provide people enough information, allow them to do their research and want to have that opportunity to buy in and learn more, then that's a success. And I think if I go at it from the perspective of pushing guys to do things 24/7 and trying to sound like a salesman, that's where I won't have as much success, or we won't have as much success. So it's more about watching them play, building the relationship, and just sharing what I know about our program, what I know about the university as a whole. And then ultimately the rest is up to them, their family, and where God wants them to be in the fall. So that's kind of what it's all about to me. I actually don't have a ton of communication with their parents. A lot of these guys are 20, 21 years old coming out of juniors, so they're able to kind of communicate back and forth between their parents. And then, of course, something that we love to do is hop on calls with parents and kind of explain what we're doing and what we're all about. And so if that is something that, a recruit wants and needs, then we're happy to do that. So
Talk a tiny bit, too, about the overall mission that we have at Liberty. The goal is to win games, win the final game of the year, but also to just influence these young men as positively as possible for Christ. So when you reflect back on this latest missions trip to Finland, boys hopping in the pool there and getting baptized, and just that option that's there to save souls. Describe that. How is that a motivating factor for you? Is there any thought process as you're going through the recruitment?
Yeah, it's actually a huge motivating factor because I look at what Liberty's done for me in my life and my family's life, and I see these guys as not just hockey players, but I see them as people too. And so I get really excited to see where they're at right now in their lives, and then hopefully bring them to a place like Liberty and grow in their faith. Now, obviously, it's not something that's necessarily forced on these guys, but the guys that are come here are obviously open to it, and we have a lot of great experiences for them to grow as men. And I think that is a huge component of the recruitment process itself is, hey, Hayden or whoever it is, we don't just see you as a hockey player. We see you as a man, and we see you as somebody who we want to help build up and grow and ultimately go into the world as a great leader. And that's kind of a big part of our pitch too is, hey, in your time here, you're going to have a lot of success on the ice. You're going to have a lot of failure on the ice, hopefully more success. But most important, we want you to be able to grow as a person holistically. And so those options like the missions trip, and I think of other trips that we've done in the past. We went to Ranch of Hope in Delaware, which was a place for kids who have struggled and maybe in and out of jail or whatever it is. And so having that opportunity to do stuff like that, I think, is a big factor for some of these guys too, because it's in their hearts and that's what they want as well. So, it's a big part of the recruitment aspect as well.
Now that you've been here for quite some time, obviously, I'm sure there are a lot of moments that have stuck out to you.
Yeah.
Can you give us a few of your favorite moments since you've been a part of the Liberty Hockey program?
Moments, yeah. I think a big one is obviously is the weekend or the week, I guess the year leading into COVID when we swept Adrian at
Oh, yeah.
home. That one will always be, I think that's top 3 to 5 for anybody that's kind of been in my time here.
Yeah.
That was an awesome moment. Another awesome moment was when we went out to UNLV and we were kind of down bodies and sick, and I know I've heard it before a couple times on recent podcasts, but to go out there with the group that we had, being down as many guys as we were and guys that were playing through a lot of illnesses, that was pretty incredible too. You're in a crazy environment, just in general, just being in the city, but those are some crazy moments. And then I think those are the 2 that really stick out to me the absolute most.
That's nice that when you guys were at UNLV, the guys didn't get the Vegas flu. So I was really glad to hear that they were able to avoid that.
Yeah.
It was it was the best of times and the worst of times.
Yeah.
There was everyone was sick. There's
what that
nobody
was.
who wasn't sick. It was just incredible. Yeah, it was very not fun. That was my least favorite road trip.
It was a rough trip overall.
Other than the games, everything else was awful.
Yeah. It was rough, but it was a good time.
And so we're kind of getting into it of you travel with the team and all that. Yeah. We're talking about the good. What are some of the ones where you're like, this trip, this moment, this guy forgot his skates, we had to get him, airlifted in. We had to do this last minute.
We've been blessed with Liberty offering its transportation. Obviously, not everything's going to go perfect, but we've had some crazy road trips. On my end, the worst experience was we're sitting there a day before we play Adrian in Michigan, and we get to practice and realize that Josh Halpenny did not have his game jersey.
Oh, no.
And so, we're less than, I think, just barely over 24 hours before the game starts. And so I think he was planning to play, or that was the coach's intent, was for him to play.
Yeah.
And obviously, we as equipment managers, so this is back earlier in my years of being here, we're responsible for remembering and helping the guys.
Oh, no.
Jersey's on you, bro.
Yeah,
So, I mean, at the end of the day, it is kind of up to them to put in their bags. But from the hotels, but or the practice. But, we initially put it in a big jersey bag. And so his had just gotten forgotten. And, we ended up having to overnight it. And luckily, we had Derek Young here.
Yeah.
Derek's
on it.
Able to get it done, and so it showed up right before the game. Had to run back to the hotel, grab it, and it all ended up being pretty good. But no, I mean, there's not been anything too bad road trip wise. Seen a couple of interesting stuff in restaurants over the years. We were at a Texas Roadhouse, and a couple had an argument, and it got kind of crazy. But that's
a couple in the restaurant, or a couple guys on the team?
No. It was a couple in the restaurant. They got an argument and ended up getting a little wild, but nothing too crazy. Usually external.
People go crazy for those Texas Roadhouse
those rolls.
Those rolls, yeah, exactly. Yeah. The cinnamon butter.
Who of the people, because obviously your dad played in the NHL, of people that you maybe met from the NHL or in the hockey world, who is the one that you've been most starstruck by?
Starstruck.
Or most excited to meet?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And my answer to that would actually be my dad was invited by Dale Hawerchuk, who's with the Winnipeg Jets, to come out to their Heritage Alumni Classic game back, I don't know however many years ago now, but there was a lot of good players there. Wayne Gretzky, Paul Coffey, Solani. So it was pretty starstruck in general, meeting all of those guys, and it was a great time. But for me, probably Teemu Solani, just because of the kind of guy he is. We spent quite a bit of time with him at the hotel and throughout the time that we were there. He's just one quality human. Like, he'd stop for everybody, talk to everybody, super polite, just down to earth. So for me, it's kind of an eye-opener to see somebody with that much success in the hockey world and who's that well-known be like that. I was pretty starstruck by that. So
Do you think he trains and goes through his ritual in French or in English?
Oh,
I don't know.
whoa, that's a good question.
And or dreams?
I don't
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
I mean, goalies are different, and he's definitely different. I don't think he likes to talk to many people before his game, so probably doesn't speak either. Just kind of gets in the zone and does what he needs to do. So
Cool.
yeah.
That's a really good question. Is he doing in English or in French? Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. Well, Bret, thanks for sitting down with us. We'll definitely have to try to get you on next season to talk about the recruits as they progress throughout the year. But thanks again for sitting down with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me, and I look forward to this upcoming year. And like you said, it's reloading and not rebuilding. And I believe in these guys. Hope they're all having a great off season and are ready to come in and go to war. So.
Oh boy.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Lord. Always an exciting time when we were able to have a guy like Bret and got to hear a lot about his story and the passion he has for the Flames program, which is exciting to see. But we'd be remiss if we didn't switch gears now to the women's side. We've talked a lot about women's D1, but now we're going to talk about the D2 ladies as they have their own set of recruits coming in. 3 have been announced and more we expect to come. First up is Monica Knapp, a defenseman from St. Louis, Missouri. Then Emma Pieri, another defenseman who played for Mole Hockey. And then Abby Rogers, a forward from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. So, guys, when you see that and know that more recruits are here to come, especially after the success that women's D2 has, it's got to fire you up because you know now, even though last year was only the 3rd time they made nationals, you got to think that's going to start being the expectation.
For sure, right? Whenever you kind of reach that level, you get the taste and then the experience. You want to keep going again and again. And I'll say it all the time of Coach Leone, Rena does such an amazing job of recruiting and planning and just bringing in the right girls. Multiple times we'll be in the office just talking about whatever, and then it always shifts towards hockey and she shows the recruit board. So the level that they've reached to, I don't see why she would want to let that slip and just keep reloading with more and more talented ladies.
The thing that I'm most excited about with this roster that they've never had before is the depth, right? Yep. So their 6 players are graduating, but they're returning 3 of those players. So just to add that depth, especially at the women's 2 level, a lot of teams, even the top teams, don't have that depth. So if you're able to hang in games and be as talented, but you have the depth, I think it's going to be an amazing year for them.
It'll be an interesting thing, and Coach Lowe's and I talk about this a lot. Oftentimes on women's hockey teams, they have smaller rosters, right? So shifts are slightly longer, and then shifts are a little less intense because you can't go all out like you could when you have a larger roster. So it'll be interesting looking towards the fall if the gameplay changes up now that they have, all right, we have 3-4 solid lines. I could go out for a 30, 40-second shift, all out, come back, recover before I need my next one. And sometimes it takes a little bit of coaching for incoming girls to realize that of, hey, you don't have to kind of coast right now. We have the depth. Let's get after it.
Love it. Yeah, I think especially at that level, I think that's going to be very unique, and I think that's something that they can use and be very successful.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you've heard from us, and now we have in the studio joining us is head coach of the women's D2 program, Rena Leone. Rena, thanks for sitting down with us.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, so walk us through the end of the year, obviously, especially that postseason, because I know it didn't start out the way you were hoping and drew it up, but it sure did end with a bang. You guys not only get your first, but your first 2 ever wins at Nationals.
So, brand new crew, first time going to Nationals. We only had maybe 4 or 5 girls who have ever experienced nationals before on our team. So they definitely stepped it up in the locker room to kind of help people mentally engage in a different way. I mean, it is a new timing, new concept, new, competition level. So those girls in the locker room, like Abby, I always destroy her last name. Our goalie, her team won nationals. She actually beat Hunter's team. So it was Steel City Selects beat the Kachinas. I think it was 21 at nationals, and I wasn't there for that game, But like, so we have girls who have been in like high stake situations.
Okay.
So it's hard when you're sitting in a locker room and you have those girls who know the mindset that you need to be in, and then you have the other girls being like, blah, 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 like, like to get that mindset. But at the same time, like our team, we need to be relaxed. We need to be having fun.
Right.
They need to not be in their heads. So it's kind of this postseason into the summer, I'm definitely thinking of like, okay, how do we turn on the game mindset and be competitive, but also have high spirits and be fun in order for them to perform well on the ice? So definitely a lot of, I'll say it, they're a bunch of head cases. I tell them that all the time. So having to figure out how to get them mentally checked in, opposed to like physically they're there, but mentally sometimes it's like, are you even playing hockey right now? So it's definitely like, okay, we need to mentally check in. And when I say that, it's okay, everything you're doing is with intention, not just throwing the puck to the net. It's okay, I'm looking, I'm shooting, I'm following. So it's definitely, the first game was a little frustrating, but at the same time, like it's our first time at Nationals. No one had been before from the team, because Bryn, who was our longest running player, we actually made Nationals the year before she came to the team. So it was definitely a new era. We'll call the Taylor Swift era. First time national era, but I think we definitely learned a lot from it. So first game, definitely frustrating, but at the same time for them to be able to rally back the next day, especially being down and to a team that we play against a lot, showed a lot of character on their part. So I kind of got outvoted too for that game. So if we want to touch on that, I'll hold off for that story.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I may have to save that for after dark. You hit on and mentioned so many, I'm just going to call it like understanding the psychology side, the mental side of coaching a team. Was that trial and error? Did it kind of come natural to you? How did you sort of figure out, with this group of girls that I have, here's how I need to approach things, here's what they need? Just kind of talk us through that, because it's the higher level of coaching. That's not just the X's and O's, but having the relationship, understanding your team, what they need in the moment.
So women's D2 hockey, I feel, is more of a mental game than a physical game when it comes down to player performance.
Yeah.
A lot of our girls in the right situation could be performers on Women's One, but they may have been told in the past that they're not good enough, they don't have the right skill, haven't been given those chances. So it's, and again, I'm playing Women's One, playing Women's Two, being in the coaching world for however long I've been in, it's a mental battle for females.
Yeah.
And so to be able to kind of put myself in their shoes and be like, okay, what do I need to do in order for them to be high performers? And that's where I've learned, like, they have to be goofballs. Like, they have to be able to have fun. They have to have a dance party in the locker room. And that's where, like, some of my coaches and I, like, differ, where, no, they need to be focused. They need to be engaged. And I'm like, no, they need to be loose. So it's definitely having good conversations with them off the ice, but also being a female, I know kind of how crazy our heads can be. And sometimes you just have to be able to kind of stop thinking and just do. We actually have, I love her, Izzy Crossman. Her freshman year, she would skate past everyone and then forget to shoot the puck. Like, legit have a breakaway.
Well, Luis Mendoza, D2.
Exactly.
Ducks here.
Really fly.
And that's where we learn, like, hey, if I yell shoot, she'll shoot.
Yeah.
Same with Camille Spinagle. We had her in the past, and she wouldn't skate in straight lines. She would have to do, like, a little zigzaggy thing, and I'm like, straight lines. And that's where you learn little things that they, either bad habits or things that they've just done and a coach has never pinpointed before. And that's where a lot of our girls have those, but we're now kind of pointing them out, and they're like, oh, yeah, I do that. And then they're kind of getting over that then. So it's kind of taking that time to figure out what's everyone's, like, I don't want to say negative trait, but, like, area that they need the most improvement on. And that's where we're now making big strides, because once she gets the breakaway and she shoots, she starts scoring more.
Yeah.
So it's finding how to make those girls excel.
Oh, I love it. And I really enjoy the sports psychology side to coaching that you're tapping on here. So just speaking personally, I lie all the time to, like, get the right psychological state of mind. to the athlete in the moment.
Yeah.
Yesterday, somebody was running, and I told them a different time than they had, so they'd be ready for the next one, right? And it's it's just good coaching at that
You mean
point.
I'm not fast?
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
one of the best. Do you have moments like that as well, where you're instilling confidence in them just so they can start to believe in themselves, type of thing?
Yeah, I guess one of the biggest, I don't want to say transitions, but like coaching wise, especially for all of us, when we have 4 coaches on the bench, it's hard not to over communicate what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
So that's where it's, if a girl comes on the bench and her head's already hanging, do not go talk to her. Because the second you say something negative that she's already probably beating herself up for, there's no point of like continuing to add to the negative. Okay, hey, shift's done. You're fine. Go back out. Don't do it again. You're good. Like, you can tell that the players are already beating themselves up. There's no point in making them feel worse.
Yeah.
So it's kind of reading the body language, getting to know your players and know. We do the love language test at the beginning of the year, and that for us helps because if someone is having a bad game and you need to go give them those words of affirmation, or you need to give them like a high five or like a pat on the back or pat on the head, like or even something as simple as here's a pack of gummies, and if their love language is like gifts and they're like, she gave me gummies and they're in her pocket, like she thought about me, like finding those little things that can also help change that mindset is huge too.
Wow.
Man, that's so funny. Sorry, I just saw this movie, remember Titans, recently, and
So
I just
good.
remember when Coach Boone...
This is the first time you've seen it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Rewatch.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this movie, guys?
But it just made me think of when you talked about lie, like Coach Boone, he lied to Sunshine to get him out. I had 12 brothers and sisters, and they were leaning on me. And then his assistant coach at, 12 brothers and sisters, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
12 sounds better.
Yeah, it does. So,
Do you like in that movie that when Ryan Gosling, he's obviously a superstar now, but
That's
like
right.
all the memes are saying like, hey, girls, you guys don't realize, but remember when he was an absolute liability at quarterback. Like, so good.
Almost ruined the defense.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now, we were talking nationals before I kind of derailed us on the sports psychology coaching side of things. We'll keep it lighthearted, but this kind of along those same topics. What kind of speech do you give to your team after a really long layover due to a tornado warning? What was that like?
At what point in the game was that?
Yeah, recap.
It was like
recap
after
that
the
for
first
us.
period.
After the first
It was after
long.
And I'll call you out on this. I'm pretty sure you walked into our locker room and was like, nope, I'm not having this.
Yeah.
Because
This was my second ever tornado warning at Nationals. And the first time I followed the herd, and I was like, I'm not doing that again. So I figured, okay, the locker room will be good. No matter what, it was a bad situation. I walked in, the girls started dancing. I was like, this is too much for me. I walked out, and I got caught by, if you want to find the craziest people at a hockey game, it's the bus drivers.
Always.
Oh,
This
100%.
guy had like an
Yeah.
unbuttoned floral shirt, and I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway,
Yeah.
okay, sorry. So, yeah, recapping.
Oh my
for
gosh.
you there.
It was okay. So emotions are already high because it's the last game for so many girls. Like, we already know we're not able to make it on because of the game that happened before us, which I almost was better because I think they didn't feel pressure then. So we go into the locker room. First thing I know, can we turn the music on? I'm like, sure. Because we don't know how long we're going to be in there. It could be 10 minutes, could be an hour. Like, I'm not going to sit there and just, crickets. So
Gotta stay warm.
they did. They did. I'm pretty sure Angie, our athletic trainer and our, women's compliance person was jumping in and having fun with them. Like, but it was a good way to keep the spirits high because the second we walked out of that locker room back onto the ice, they were ready to go. They were fired up.
Yeah.
So having a dance party, like, again, it's all about the mindset. It's all about, like, if we sat in there and I was like, girls, we need to think about the game and we need to do this and we need to do that, they're going to either take a nap, put their helmet on, pretend to sleep, or totally disengage. So by allowing them to have fun, it made getting back on the ice even that much better. So
Yeah, that's really tough, right? Like, you've talked about it a lot, but I think knowing your team, and it seems like when you say you do the love language things, like that's, I feel like, above and beyond as a coach. And I think you learning your team and what your girls need, like somebody in the other side of the hall might be like, well, what are they doing?
What is
but
happening
like
right
you
now,
know
yeah.
your team, you know what they need best. So I think that speaks volumes of you and your coaching staff as well.
Yeah. Piggybacking off that a little bit, like obviously now you know your team, but I feel like Kura said it on the pod. You've known a lot of these girls for years that are currently on the team. But now let's look at the girls coming in because we touched on a couple of the girls and Monica Knapp, Emma Pieri, hopefully I said that right, and Abby Rogers. Tell us a little about them. And then also I'm sure there are some more girls to come. Can you talk a little bit about the recruits you have coming in?
Yeah, so Abby Rogers was the first girl I've been talking with. I went up to Pittsburgh in February. I actually got to watch her play. Trisha, who's coming in for Women's One, got to watch her play. Megan Harbaugh, I think she just did her freshman year. Her mom went here, and her mom's brothers was roommates with Coach Lowe's. So again, the whole hockey connection.
Poor
So
guy.
So got to meet Abby at Pittsburgh, and this is where getting to meet someone to seeing how they are on paper is so two different things. So we had a scout go and watch her play, and I read over the notes that we have internally, and I was like, okay, I just want to see her play myself. And I was like, everything that was said there doesn't match with what I saw. So it's again, paper to video to seeing someone in person. Right. I think she's going to be a huge asset because she's a very good center, wins a lot of faceoffs. Also just doesn't give up in the corner. So I think she's going to be a huge, where we were lacking with the faceoffs. That's definitely going to help us this year. Emma came to our recruitment camp. So we had a recruitment camp in April. That's when Emma came. Monica had come to visit, but she didn't skate with the team. So it was the first time I got her to skate. It was so funny. We're sitting at the lobby. So she's from Monica is from St. Louis. She was actually up in Wisconsin during our nationals. So her dad came to watch us play against Delaware. I'm in the lobby. I turn around and I'm like, I know this face, but I don't know who it belongs to. And it was her dad. So talked to her dad quickly in the lobby, and I guess they were texting back and forth because she was watching the stream. So Monica's playing. She plays defense. I think she's going to be a solid add to our defense. Personality-wise, gets along so well. Same with Emma. Emma, when she was here for the select camp, they kept confusing her with an Adamak sister because of her size. So she's a little shorter.
Yeah.
Great defensively, works the corner as well. So I thought it was funny that she was already blending in and they're thinking she was somebody else. So we have Brooklyn Vortman. She plays up in Thunder Bay. Okay. She'll be coming. She was at the select camp, got to meet her. She got to meet the team. Ella Mormon, I believe is how you say her last name. She is from Saskatchewan. She'll be coming. Her best friend actually already goes here and plays on the beach volleyball team. So I sat down to talk with her, and she's like, well, I'm coming. I was like, okay. I don't have to do any convincing.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then we are talking to one more girl who played for the St. Louis Blues. Her name's Calissa Klein. And we're just waiting for that letter of intent, but it sounds like she's going to be here. So we should have 6 new players, and then we graduated 6, but 3 are returning. Yeah. So we will be a roster about 23.
Yeah, talk a little about that too. Obviously, last year's roster was already pretty talented, but now basically this is probably one of your most seasoned groups that you've brought back, and now one of your team just got deeper. Talk a little about, I guess, we're jumping ahead, but yeah, your expectations now for next season.
I will say, since the end of the season to currently, I have tried not to think about things.
Okay.
Just because I needed that time to decompress and kind of, have a little bit of that off switch. After I signed the girls, I was like, okay, we're good. We have enough bodies. We'll be set for next year.
It's a long season.
It's a very long season. Yeah. Starting in August and go until end of March, and then kind of kept going because we had those select camp in April. Next year is going to be even later because our nationals don't even start until March 21st.
What?
Oh.
Yeah. Nationals are a week later than they were this year, so that's where...
Is it in St. Louis again?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but all the games...
Vilma.
Less tornado.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All the games are supposed to be in Centene this year. So they expanded nationals by 3 days. So then no games will be in Maryville. All games will be in Centene. Which it's nice to all be there, but I actually really enjoyed our games at Maryville. I thought it had a better setting for us.
Yeah, they have a really nice facility. I would agree. Yeah, it's not a bad spot at all.
But I have started thinking of we actually changed our practice time. So how's that going to affect our players this upcoming year? Because we're changing to the mornings. But from my season players, the ones all returning, they have either capstone classes or night classes, or more night classes are being offered. So to make sure my entire squad's there, we are doing like 6 to 7 a.m.s on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So thinking about that, like, okay, how can I help transition to make sure everyone's there on time for the first couple weeks, and just make sure like I'm not being overly harsh if people are, oversleeping because they're adjusting. But I'm definitely wanting to have conversations and wanting to plan out the entire semester of, okay, Kevin, you're doing this, Holly, you're doing this. I've already talked to Coach Hughes about coming and helping us with some special team stuff.
Really cool.
So it's just, planning out the whole semester so I can focus more on the girls and them developing skills. Like we might have to be changing lines up a little bit more than we have in the past to kind of find really what works. This will be the first season that we are having special teams where, okay, the best players are going to play. Yeah. We're not going to kind of try and just, survive. So I think this year's going to be a first for us to kind of really elevate our skill on the ice because we now have, we don't have to worry about having enough bodies on the bench. We now have enough where we can be like, well, if you're not going to be putting forth effort or if you're not going to be doing well in the classroom, we'll sit you. Yeah. So we could potentially have 2 healthy scratches for at least the forwards this year. So
that's awesome.
And again, I don't want to go from using that as a negative, like, if you don't do your homework, you're not going to play. But at the same time, use that as motivation of, okay, like you don't want to let your team down. You want to be able to be eligible and you want to be able to help. So make sure that you're doing everything right so that we don't. So it's a harder decision for us coaches of who's not dressing if we have that, if we have to do that.
Yeah, no, I love that too, right? Because like where you guys are now is higher than and more above where you were, say, 2 years ago. And obviously your great run at Nationals was really awesome to see. And then now moving towards that, hey, you guys are now fighting for that ice time and you have to earn that kind of stuff. So I think that's a really awesome progression to where you guys are going. Touching on the early practice, have you guys experienced much of that before? Like, are you anticipating like girls being dog tired, and like do you guys work out, and like when is your workout?
Everything was in the afternoon this past season, so we we're in the gym 3:15 to 4:15 and then on the ice 4:30 to 5:45 or 6. Yeah. So we do have one girl.
You start at 4:15 but a.m.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm excited. I'm a morning person, so I don't mind. We do have a 12:45 practice on Wednesdays, so I mean they get to sleep in then. Yeah. I think the freshmen might be like, what in the world? But it will be good because then by noon they could have practice, classes, and then be done for the rest of the day. Yeah. They can go take a nap. They can go hang out with friends. Like they can have a life. So I think it's a good change. It just might be a little rough at the beginning. So maybe
obviously because you're somebody who likes pro dev that way. But are you going to buy them the 5 a.m. club book?
I have not even heard
everybody
of that.
on board.
No.
I hadn't heard of it.
I think there's a book.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I heard it. I think I maybe saw it in Kirk Candy's
office
bookshelf.
Okay.
I think it's like a fad. At least it was of like, hey, I get up at 6 a.m. and here's why, or 5 a.m. and here's why. So maybe trick them.
A lot of dust on that one.
Yeah, and trick them. So.
We touched on obviously your recruits coming in and things of that nature. What's your recruiting approach? Because obviously a lot different than the other teams here at Liberty, or even you're a different niche being at women's D2, right? So talk a little about what's the recruiting approach, even this year coming up, because you touched on it. You're returning 15 plus skaters, so you didn't really need to bring in a ton of girls, but you just told us about your recruits bringing in 6 to add to the depth. So not only what's the approach, but what were you looking for too as well?
Recruiting has definitely changed over the span of I'm going into my 8th season now. So it used to be like any tournament I had a chance to go to, I was going to just to kind of be like a presence, like, oh, who's that? Like, and I'd always try and go talk to parents, so then other teams would see me talking to those parents or the players. I used to do 4 tournaments a year. I'd do a Thanksgiving, a Christmas, one in February, and then one at Nationals. So trying just to get our name a little bit more known, because again, being the little sister of the powerhouse, they know we have a women's 1 program, but not many people knew we had a women's 2 program. Okay. So kind of getting our name out there, us winning a little bit more and go to Nationals definitely helped to kind of, again, 2020 killed us because we didn't have a season. We were able to practice and play a couple high school games, but we weren't able to really hit the road too hard. So we kind of had, momentum going, and then kind of just crashed a little bit. This season was actually really nice because I already knew we had a larger roster, so I wasn't stressed as much. So being a Christian university, I also now want to find the right girls for our team because we've had a couple just difficult personalities or people who really weren't buying into the culture. So I want to be able to find people who, want to be here and want to be here for the right reasons. I'm finding more and more, and this is a whole nother tangent, but with the Title IX and with the transgender and with the LGBT blah, 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 it's so hard because you want to create a safe space for the girls.
Right.
Again, you don't want to be, this is going to sound,
You're trying to say you don't want to be not inclusive, but you also have to protect the women that are on your team.
Exactly.
Totally understand.
And what I've found and what my mission statement used to be for this team was we need to be the missionaries. We need to be the, if they come here, we need to be using the team as a mission field. I've now completely take that back. I want this place to be a mission or a safe haven for the Christian girls who have possibly had a high school experience that was horrible because, they were the outcasts because they were the Christians. And I'm finding that we need to have more of that stability for them because you don't know what they're walking into. You don't know how they've been treated on other teams. So I now want to have my team as a safe haven for those girls, so that when I'm recruiting, I want to make sure that they're coming. All that to say, I have girls who want to come here because of the conservative side of things that might not be Christians, and that could hurt the culture because they think one way of the aisle of politics and they think that's the only reason they want to be here. But then they come here and they're like, I have to go to Convo, I have to do this. We do a team Bible study. So it's, again, creating that safe haven for my players, creating that safe haven to be a Christian, and kind of this year we had 5 girls get baptized. If we had
awesome.
If we had other players that we were having those girls pour into who they didn't even want that to be a conversation, now we don't have to worry about those conversations, and we can pour into the girls who maybe have faith but haven't had the best mentorship in. So it's just now I'm able to kind of wait until girls come to me, find those emails, get to have those good conversations, have them come meet the team, skate with the team, and have a better screening process, I guess is the best way, because we don't have to have 10 people coming in. We're only trying to fill a couple spots.
Yeah.
We can be a lot more particular now because of the culture we have created with the bodies that we have brought in. Again, it's to create a safe space for them. So
that's really cool. I mean, to learn and grow as a team together. And then also Liberty's a huge campus, right? Mm-hmm. So they're going to interact with people on a daily basis that maybe aren't safe. So it's also the university is somewhere where they can grow and learn and walk in their faith, but also live it out.
Yeah.
So other people can see that as well. So it is their mission field in a sense too, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And I love everything you're saying there, Rena, because it's just sport 101. Have a culture and identity of your team and recruit for that culture and recruit for that identity. Just yesterday I was telling a story of there was we're going to call him a staff member for the New England Patriots, and Bill Belichick just said hey, look, you're too happy-go-lucky for this organization. It's just not going to work for you. And he assisted them in finding a different team to work for. Okay. But it's just when you have what works for you with the culture identity that you want to put out there, especially based on the mission of Liberty University. When you look at this past year for you, tremendous success, right? And having worked with a bunch of women's teams and men's teams for as many years as I have, the most successful teams are the ones that have a clear cut. This is going to be how we, live out our mission. This is our identity. Here's the culture. Do you want to fit into that or not?
Yeah.
And a big part of that, I think, which in my mind was extremely successful this year and I think will continue to be, you've mentioned it a little bit, but talk about, if you can for a moment, the recruitment camp we had and how important it is to bring these girls in, let them get a good feel for what Liberty has to offer, what we're about. Everything from the start to the beginning to me just seemed awesome.
So the recruitment camp, it's kind of, I love Sea Falls, even though everyone on campus is like, oh no, there's so many kids coming to campus. It's a great way to get like people to come see the campus, go to class, go to a practice, meet the team. I think that's the biggest thing that, like, if I can't get a player here to meet the team, I don't know if I'll sign them now because I want them to be able to, like, the girls to meet them, get to know them in the locker room. Because, again, I'm not the one in the locker room. My girls are. So I don't want to bring someone in that they haven't really signed off on. So I definitely take, like, the entire team's, especially the captains, like, good conversation of, okay, how was she in the locker room? Was she asking the right questions? Was she swearing? Was she doing this? Like, we had one girl come, and I was on a tour, and 2 of my captains were with us, and I never heard it, but I guess she was cussing the entire time we were having the tour, and I never heard it. And then they told me that afterwards, and I'm like, okay, well, we kind of touched on that, how, like, what our team culture is like. So it's, do we need to worry about, okay, if she says she's a Christian or if she wants this atmosphere, but yet we're in a 15-minute conversation and she's already dropped so many F-bombs, like, is that really going to be a good fit?
Yeah.
Which has been really hard, I think, especially the last 4 years with COVID. Because I know even at Women's One, it was like, hey, this girl reached out, we saw a video, they live in Canada, they can't get here.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, we'll sign them. Obviously, because we think they're able to play at this level. So I think now it's kind of nice that, like, you don't have to rush anything like that.
Yeah.
The logjam is, I think, slowly, separating itself from back then. But yeah, it is nice to get girls on campus, meet them, meet their parents if they bring them, and just like, hey, this is what we have to offer, and hopefully you fit in the mold.
And I think the best part about the select camp was Coach Lowe's and I working together as a Women's 1 and Women's 2 combined.
I loved it.
Because they did the first ice session together and they scrimmaged. And you can tell that, like, maybe our top end can fit in their bottom, like, or our top end could fit in the middle somewhere. And so it's good to see that, like, depending on what the coach is looking for, but also, like, the skill level we had, we're trying to, again, we're upping our game. So that helps because then girls who, and this is where it's the pros and the cons again, is how many girls are coming in hoping to make Women's 1. They don't have that opportunity, so they still want to come to school here. They have an opportunity on my team, but they still want that door open.
Right.
So having us skate together during the prospect camp, they can kind of see, like, okay, what's the caliber that they already have on the team and who they're looking at. And there was a difference. There was a good skill difference in the girls that they were bringing in, which kind of helps my case to be like, okay, well, you could hang, but not as much as you think. So then, okay, maybe the next year or two, like Conley did, like, play with us, practice with Women's 1, and then there's a possibility of you jumping up. So it kind of helps build the case of, okay, you want to come here, you want to go to Christian school, you want to play on a team, you don't have that opportunity yet, but come, work, grind, and then hopefully make it then.
Yeah, and I will say that, like, even over the years, like, the gap from Women's 2 to 1 has closed. And it's nice that Coach Lowe's and you have a relationship to where it's like, you talk about that feeder system and you're willing to work with him and he's obviously wanting to work with you and, like, have girls retain them as student athletes, even though for, like, hey, I don't want to play on Women's 1 anymore. It's a little too demanding, or, like, it's too busy. It's nice that they have somewhere to land and be a part of another awesome culture at this university, and they have an opportunity to win a national championship. So I think where the culture of women's hockey is here is in a really good spot.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, Rena, thanks again for coming and sitting down with us and
happy to be
talking about a variety of things. And definitely got to get you on the podcast either before your season starts or definitely shortly after the year starts to see how everything is rolling. We expect big things from Women's C2 next year.
Sounds good. I'll definitely start making notes on my phone.
And congrats on the season.
Oh, thank you.
Just unbelievable from, like, We've met in your office year after year after year, and to see all of that hard work pay off, it is unbelievable. Proud of you, excited for you. Can't wait to get after it again this year.
It should be good. Give me a couple more weeks of rest, and then let's
that a girl.
Always good to have Coach Leone in the studio. And yeah, guys, like, obviously she talked a little bit about it, and I feel like we've had the last few people that have come on since the postseason has began really talking about the culture and trying to find the right people to fit into the program. And yeah, it's good to see Coach Leone. That's been one of the key things she looks at when she's on the recruiting trail lately.
Yeah, and when you look back on Bret's interview and then just talking with Rena just now, they both really hit on that of finding the right fit, making sure that it's somebody that's going to fit our culture. With that being said, it's a lot of pressure on the coaching staff to be able to define that, right? And it takes time. It takes a while, but when we judge and look back on this past season, the successes they had, especially at nationals, I really think that Rena and her staff have nailed down of this is who we are. This is how we identify as our team. Here's the type of girl we're looking for, and man, it's really added up to some wins for them.
Yeah, and I mean, just talking with Coach Leone, it's very evident that she loves and cares for her girls, and even the things she does off the ice, and how she's astute to their needs individually. I think it's just an amazing where the program is and where it's going.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love talking X's and O's in my world, talking how much weight you're going to lift or whatever else, but all of that doesn't matter if you can't nail down the mental side of things, the sports psychology side of things. And she said some very, very impressive, in my opinion, like high-level stuff. Having your team take the I'm sure we all have here as married men, but like the love languages assessment, just so she knows how to and how not to communicate with her athletes. Like, that's top notch. Yeah, good excuse too to keep some snacks around. I like that a lot. What do you have all these pretzels? Yeah, they're just good snacks. Yeah, I'm gonna have to steal that one.
Yeah, when you now look at the grand scheme of things, talking about, we've kind of touched base with every coach now. Like, obviously, how do you feel, or what's the expectation? I think everyone expects the women to be right back up in the saddle to win a national title. We're talking about women's D1, but like, what do you guys feel like? Who's gonna be the next one to win a title first, and then do you expect women's D1 to be the one that claims the title? That was my expectation coming in first.
Yeah, I think the women are in a really good spot again this year. Again, just with the class that they're bringing in. But I think it's time for men's one. I think they've been right there for so long. And I think, too, the coaching staff realizes, like, hey, guys, like, we're really close. What can we do to just get that extra advantage? So I think them bringing in these 9 guys, maybe more. The summer is long and people drop from the sky. But I think men's one I'm the one I'm looking out for them to win the next one.
Attaboy. That fires me up. Yeah. I enjoy that.
Love it.
Yeah, we haven't had our post-season meeting yet, so maybe the boys will hear this. But yeah, I have thoughts of what we did really, really well and our opportunities for improvement as we move towards next year. So we'll say disagree. Depending on the new guys coming in and the guys shifting out, I think men's too, as always, is really right there knocking at the door. I'm going to say if they could have the health throughout the season of certain guys, they should be back up there.
That's a lot of ifs, Coach.
So, yeah, that's the game we're playing.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm doing our end of year interviews, and I always say I envy stopwatch-based sports where it's just like swim. You know whether or not you got better versus, man, the other team just brought in a stud goalie.
Right.
Can't do anything about that.
Yeah, man, I like that too. Because obviously, I think now Liberty, as a whole, all 5 teams have put themselves in a good place. Like we talked about, even though men's D1 has graduated a big class that was part of the culture that helped redefine Liberty hockey. Now you're hoping this new class is going to be able to take Liberty to another level, right? Like, and that's what you're hoping these group of guys. Men's D2 in a position really should be able to compete again for a national title if they can shore up some things on the back end with some good quality defensemen. I think men's D3 AAU kind of now they slowly just keep going to nationals. I think for them it's going to be time for them to start revving up, and then we just touched on women's D1 and women's D1 and women's D2. Like, we expect big things from both of those programs too. So it's a good time, I guess you could say, to be at LU in the hockey program.
Yeah, I'll change my answer because you just made me think of something. Men's D3. I'm your weight room guy this year. We're going all the way. Let's go, boys. Let's go, boys.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah. Oh, hey, like Bret said, time for war.
That's right.
Time to go to war.
That's right. Yeah, that got me really fired up because what's that meme? It's like all day night, all night long. You know what I'm talking about?
I haven't. No, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I got to cut that part out.
I know you're talking about.
Okay.
Love that.
Unless Fourth sends it to me, I never see it.
That's funny.
All right. Well, any final thoughts before we tune out here?
No, just pumped for this upcoming year when you have the recruiting guy for men's D1 and then Rena, who does a large part of the recruiting for her team. I think she should fire that scout that she mentioned there. But anyway, it really gets me pumped. I'm excited to have a little bit more rest here over the summer and then get to work.
Yeah, I would say bold prediction after learning from these coaches. I think every single Liberty team makes the Final Four in their respective thing at Nationals this season. You heard it here first.
Oh, yeah. We got to save this tape right here for sure. But I like that, yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in. Obviously, we're going to have these guys come back one more time before we wrap up things for the summer of Rock the Rink pod. But again, thanks for tuning in. This has been Rock the Rink.